Let's go. Time to grind, get inside your mind. Yeah, we working overtime. That's the only way to climb. We gon' make it in our prime. Signing on the dotted line, cashing checks left and right. That's the way I'm living life. I feel alive when I got a goal in sight. Chip away, I gotta fight. Ain't nobody else in sight. Man, I think I see the light. Yeah, that shit is so bright. Follow me, I got the guide. See you on the other side, son. Ain't nobody know what I've been through.
What is going on, everyone? And in this video, I'll be giving you my UFC Fight Night Grasso versus Shevchenko 2 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, September 16, 2023 at Las Vegas, Nevada in the T-Mobile Arena. Main event, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko, the rematch for the women's flyweight title. And then in the co-main event, you have Kevin Holland versus Jack Della Maddalena in a welterweight bout, which I think is a pretty good bout. You always have Kevin Holland stepping in there, trying to take on the best guys. So I'm looking forward to that one. I think that's going to be a pretty competitive fight. And then the rest of the card, classic fight night, nothing too crazy. See how the fights go. I guess some of the fight cards have been pretty good lately, even if they were fight nights instead of like the pay-per-views. I do miss, and I think everyone's complaining about it, just having more epic cards versus just a card every week. I think people do miss, because even the last one, UFC 293, it didn't really have the names on it. So sometimes I even think, like, because they utilize so many people on other cards, they can't really build up one of these cards, especially when people get injured. Even on a pay-per-view card, right? It's hard to do that. We had UFC 290, but it was like International Fight Week. I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit more of these cards be put together, and that way if somebody falls out, it's not like the end of the world. You still have like 10 more fights or whatever to go. But either way, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So that hopefully we do good on this one. Been doing pretty well past 4 or 5 fight cards. Look forward to keep that momentum. In the first fight on the main card, we have Fernando Padilla, 15-4, taking on Kyle Nelson, 14-5-1 in a featherweight bout. So this is a very interesting fight because Kyle Nelson, I think he has durability. I think he also has that ability to like keep going. He's going to bring the pressure. He wants to fight in close. He welcomes that kind of Raleigh style. He'll also try to mix up the clinch, which he'll try to get some takedowns, drown out his opponent. Now, he hasn't found too much success, only 2 wins inside the UFC. He has a total of 5 losses. He's also been submitted, and he's been TKO'd. But he did finish Marco Polo Reyes back in 2019. So, I mean, he does have power, but I would say he's not necessarily knocking people out. I think the biggest thing for him is if he can get those takedowns. But even then, if some of these guys can outstrike him, because he doesn't have too high of a volume, because I think he has to get in close and do his work. And he's slower than a lot of these faster strikers. So that's going to keep him just naturally not having the volume, I think. Because Padilla, he's definitely going to be the lengthier fighter here. He's going to have that reach advantage. Long arms, you can kind of tell. He whips the shots. He's definitely going to be the one that's probably has the speed advantage and just being the one that tries to light Nelson up a little bit more, and also from a distance. Padilla was able to come in his last fight, and he was able to get that TKO against Julian Erosa, which I think is a pretty solid win in that fight, and he was able to hurt him pretty bad. And then he dropped him, and then he hurt him again, and then they called off the fight. I think that was good. He did rush him a little bit with one of those classic like running at them, where if you fight a better striker, you might get countered. So for Padilla, maybe he needs to calm down a bit on that. But I think overall, as long as he doesn't get stuck on the cage or just stuck on the floor, and find success on the feet, I'm thinking Padilla's going to be able to light him up early on, and he'll trade in the pocket. I say use the reach advantage, but Padilla's not afraid to trade because he whips those shots, right? He'll go to the body, go to the head, obviously, and he has a pretty solid chin. Like even against Rosa, he did eat some shots, but he still was coming forward. So he'll welcome that in close fight against Nelson. Yeah, I think as long as Padilla doesn't get stuck in a grappling, I think he lights him up on the feet early. And I mean, if he's whipping those shots like he did to Rosa, I think it's just a matter of time. We'll see how tough Nelson is, but I'm going to go Fernando Padilla to defeat Kyle Nelson. I'll take him to win by round 1, TKO. In the second fight on the main card, we have Daniel Zellhuber, 13-1, taking on Christos Giagos, 20-10 in a lightweight bout. Daniel Zellhuber is coming off of a win against Lando Venata, which he actually dropped him and hurt him really bad in that first round. I think I really liked what I saw from him in that first round. Very technical with the striking, not overdoing it. When he felt like he had the finish, he didn't just rush in like a crazy person, right? He had him up against the fence, and he even was able to drop him to the floor and then start pounding on him there. But even then, didn't get too crazy, didn't give up positioning, wasn't able to take him out, but I think throughout that fight, he was just a better striker, and I liked what we saw from him there. He was also able to defend 3 takedowns. He went for 1 takedown of his own, but he didn't get it. But he did defend 3 takedowns, so I think he has pretty solid takedown defense. The fight before that against Trey Ogden, he lost via unanimous decision. He defended 8 takedowns in that fight, so that's definitely good. So his takedown defense, I think, is a pretty solid thing to say here, right? So I think Giagos is going to definitely have a little bit of a time trying to get him down. That's not to say Giagos isn't able to get him down. I'm just saying he might be able to keep the fight standing longer than Giagos wants him to be standing. Now, Giagos was able to clip Ricky Glenn in their last fight, and he was able to get the fight victory, KO/TKO in round number 1. That was an interesting one. I don't think that happens here. Obviously, in close, he has good power, but I think against like a more technical striker in Zellhuber, I feel like he's going to be able to keep that at bay for a little bit and light him up on the feet. Zellhuber has good aggression, good volume. Yeah, I think as long as Zellhuber is able to defend those takedowns, because obviously Giagos is probably going to try to go in for some takedowns here, maybe try to pull off a submission if you get him on the floor. He did fight Arman Sarukian, lost that one. Thiago Moises lost that one. And then, like I said, he defeated Ricky Glenn. So Giagos is a pretty tough guy. He's been around, right? 2014, he was in the UFC. But I do think Giagos struggling to get those takedowns, and then on the feet, I do think he will leave himself a little exposed. Obviously, Giagos could clip Zellhuber at any time. I mean, we all know that. We saw that with Ricky Glenn. He can obviously threaten with submission if he needs to, if he gets the fight to the floor. And that's really, like I said, that's really the main thing for me. If Zellhuber is getting taken down for whatever reason, consistently ends up in a bad spot, Giagos can take advantage of that. If Zellhuber gets a little bit too careless on the feet, leaves himself exposed. But it doesn't give me that vibe like he's going to be that kind of guy. I think he is going to be a technical striker, right? He'll put together some front kicks, good combinations. His cardio is good too. Even in that fight against, for Zellhuber, even against Lando Venata, I felt like he handled himself pretty good. He was able to, even when he went for the finish against Lando Venata, it's not like when he got back to his feet in the next round, he was gassed out of his mind. So he definitely has good cardio, knows how to pace himself, even when he's going for that finish. And I always like to see things like that. First round might be a little bit of a testing round where both guys are trying to find their range. Maybe Giagos goes in for the takedown, tries to get a takedown, maybe finds one, maybe pushes him against the fence, so Zellhuber breaks it off. And then Zellhuber in that second round starts to let it go a little bit more. And then we see, because I do think Giagos is tough. I don't think he's going to get clipped in the first 5 seconds. Or, I don't think it's going to be like that. But I do think in that second round, Zellhuber will definitely start letting it go more. And as long as he doesn't get crazy with it, fights that smart fight, I think you can clip him. I just like what I've seen from him with the striking. I think it's pretty brutal. Good strikes landed per minute. Good takedown defense. So yeah, I'm going to go Daniel Zellhuber to defeat Christos Giagos by round 2 KO/TKO. In the third fight on the main card, we have Raul Rosas Jr., 7-1, taking on Terrence Mitchell, 15-3, in a bantamweight bout. So Rosas Jr., not that he got absolutely destroyed in his last fight, but he wasn't able to get those takedowns. He wasn't able to get the finish with the grappling, with the submission. And when Christian Rodriguez was able to kind of get out of that, land a lot more significant strikes, put up the volume a little bit more, total strikes, he was able to win that fight via unanimous decision, because obviously Rosas Jr. just had nothing for him. And then with Rodriguez just hold him on the floor, it just wasn't, Rosas Jr. was a little bit gassed out. And that's the problem here, is we know he has pretty good grappling, but you can't just be diving in for takedowns right off the bat. That's going to get a bit too predictable. So I'm hoping that from April to now, Rosas Jr. has obviously worked on his striking to where he can set things up a little bit more, right? We know he has dominant grappling. right? He definitely had Rodriguez early on in that fight in some bad spots. Wasn't able to get the victory, but he still had him in bad spots. Now, for someone like Terrence Mitchell, he does have more fights, but it's not like it's against better guys or whatever. He did lose his last fight in the UFC 290 via KO TKO against Cameron Saman, in which he got taken down twice, outstruck, and then I think that was like ground and pound. So Terrence Mitchell, the problem with him is like, yeah, I mean, if he gets taken down, what's Rosas Jr. going to be able to do with him? And then, but at the same time, for Mitchell, if he can survive that, I mean, I think the game plan's there, right? You just got to do what Christian Rodriguez was. You got to defend those takedowns. You got to make him tired. But if Rosas Jr. takes his time and he's working on his striking, maybe he'll keep the fight standing a little bit, see what he can do up there, and then when he finds the timing to get that takedown, he'll go for it and then work the grappling. But he can't just dive in for it consistently, because I mean, at the same time, Mitchell could study him and be like, well, I know what I kind of need to do to win this fight, right? It's defend those takedowns, make you tired, not give up my back, and then not give the submission. Now, that's going to be pretty hard. And with the growth of Rosas Jr., because of how young he is, I'm going to look at the bright side of things and think that he is training his striking. He is going to want to be more diverse instead of just diving in for those takedowns, because he knows now what will happen if he doesn't get him, and what happens when you're not able to get the guy out of there. You got to do other stuff, right? You got to do a little bit more work on the feet, maybe light him up on the feet. So I do think Mitchell is going to have a problem with the grappling, though. So I'm going to give him another shot. I'm going to go Raul Rosas Jr. to defeat Terrence Mitchell. I'll take him to win by round 1 submission. In the co-main event of the evening, we have Kevin Holland, 25-9, taking on Jack Della Maddalena in a welterweight bout. So one thing to say right off the bat is Kevin Holland's always looking to fight the best guys. He's always going out there, always trying to throw himself into the mix. Short notice, whatever notice, he goes in there and tries to get the victory. He wants to put on exciting fights. But I would say that, especially in his last 2 fights, I think he's cleaned it up a little bit. Not only, the big concern with Kevin Holland was his takedown defense, and then all that, his grappling defensively or even offensively, if you want to get at that like, okay, he's flashy on the feet, he talks a lot, but what's he got, right? Like, as far as technical aspects of MMA, besides just looking for the knockout, right? It's like, what else does he have? And I think he's shown at this point that he definitely has a pretty good Darce choke. He knows how to pull that off now. He knows how to kind of defend those takedowns, what to do, sprawl Wyatt, look for the submission. Because I think against Michael Chiesa, he did a great job at, we always see Chiesa, constantly using that side-to-side movement, going the opposite direction or bouncing out, he's running around the octagon. And so for Kevin Holland, the way that he was able to shut him down, close off that distance, hurt him, right, land that knee, and then proceed to go down there with the Darce choke. I think that was a really good win for him. It showed that he has that understanding of the octagon, and it showed that he's not just going out there trying to land a big shot and KO someone. Against Santiago Ponzinibbio, that was a good fight for him. He was able to get that KO TKO in round number 3. I think he showed patience in that fight. Against Stephen Thompson, he did struggle, but that was against a really good striker in Stephen Thompson. Against Khamzat Chimaev on the short notice fight, he got submitted in that one. Unfortunate for him, really not much to that one. I think he would have liked to have a full camp for him, but either way, took that fight. He defeated Tim Means via Darce choke. That was a good win for him. Alex Oliveira, he was able to KO TKO him with the elbows. Good win for him. The eye poke against Kaldakis. Lost to Marvin Vettori, lost to Derek Brunson. So in my opinion, he loses to guys that just have better, like, one aspect of MMA where they're really good at. So when he lost to Stephen Thompson, Stephen Thompson, arguably one of the best karate kickboxing. Like, he's just one of the best guys in the strikers in the division from a tactical standpoint. So that was a difficult fight for Kevin Holland. Against Khamzat Chimaev, I think even if it was a full camp, it might have been a little bit more competitive, but I still think Chimaev would have been able to take him down and dominate him. Against Marvin Vettori, just couldn't deal with the grappling back then. Derek Brunson, same thing, couldn't deal with the grappling, but he was still a little bit more cocky. When he goes out there, he's able to nuke a lot of these other guys. Brendan Allen, he lost submission, rear naked choke. That was early on. Thiago Santos all the way back. Unanimous decision. So when he gets to that top level where he's fighting a guy that really has a clean skill set, like he struggles a little bit. But then when he fights some guys that could be a little bit chinny, maybe like Santiago Ponzinibbio, a guy who, if you can figure out how to shut him down, he doesn't really have much for you. Michael Chiesa, right? He's not out striking, knocking dudes out on the feet. Kevin Holland was able to shut him down, close off the octagon, and then eventually hurt him and then get that Darce. For Jack Della Maddalena, he's coming into this one, all wins inside the UFC. Now, interestingly enough, I think a lot of people kind of gave him shit for his last fight, but I will say it's a short notice fight, and it was against a guy in Basil Hafez where it wasn't just some random guy they picked up, right? He definitely had good experience with him, 8-4-1. So it's not like he was out there running through everyone or whatever, but I think he definitely he had that grappling, and he had that, as they say, he had that dog in him, because he was going forward, staying in his face, trading shots with Jack Della Maddalena, and he was able to tag him up, and then at the same time he was able to go in for those takedowns. So he made that fight competitive. But if you look at the strikes, especially the significant strikes landed, 83-32. So Maddalena was still finding success on the feet. 212 total strikes, 149 of 212 strikes, 48 of 141. So for Hafez. So for Jack Della Maddalena, he definitely will put up that volume. Definitely has nasty power in close. He'll throw those hooks. He'll go for the leg kicks. So for this one, a lot of people are assuming that maybe Holland tries to look for a takedown here and there. I could definitely see that. I don't think that's going to happen early on, though. I think that might happen when the fight gets a little bit gritty, right? If they're both throwing down. Holland will be able to take advantage of kicking him from a distance. Just having that length to his advantage, he's definitely going to probably be able to scoot in, scoot out kind of movement, tag him, try to get back. Jack Della Maddalena definitely does his best work when he's closing off that distance right in front of you, and he's able to start swinging those bombs. And he'll eat some shots, though. I mean, he definitely ate some shots against Hafez. He'll definitely get in there, and he's not afraid to start trading. I don't know if that's a smart idea against Holland. The only thing I can see with this one is Holland needs to go forward, right? Holland can't get stuck back up against the fence, because Maddalena, even if he does get tagged a little bit, I mean, he definitely throws heavy shots in close. So my only concern is if Holland gets shut down up against the fence and has one of those standing TKOs, just because Maddalena is just starting to tee off on him. But I think if Holland keep a distance, maybe mixing a takedown out of nowhere, threatening with those submission skills as well, there might be opportunities for him to possibly go for that Darce. But at the same time, Maddalena, we've seen him go for a submission. He's able to get that rear naked choke against Randy Brown. I wouldn't count him out as well, right? I don't want to count him out. I don't know if he's going to be the one going in for that, but defensively, I think he's definitely aware of what he can do. So Holland, if he goes in for a takedown or anything, it's got to be clean. Otherwise, he might give up that positioning and then get submitted. But like I said, for Jack Della Maddalena, got to be in close. Does his best work there. Throw a high kick here and there. But overall, I still feel like Holland is very dangerous, very fast as well. Maddalena, he scoots forward a little bit. He gets out of the way of his opponent's strikes. But when he's swinging in close, there's opportunities for him to get touched, right? And that's what I feel like with Kevin Holland. If he can counter him, it could be a problem for Maddalena. I think it's gonna be a tough fight for both guys, right? I don't think Maddalena is gonna be taking him down or anything like that, unless Kevin Holland goes in for the grappling. Maybe they just keep it standing and they try to make it a war, which I would be more inclined to think, because both guys, I think, would prefer to keep the fight standing and go from there. But 3 rounds, tough fight. I think it's gonna be a tough fight. Both guys have solid chins. We're going to see who's good, but it was also good for Maddalena to be tested in this last fight. And probably it was tested because of the short notice. I think that might have made it a tougher fight as well. Obviously, not having that full camp, because he was teeing off on Hafez in the 3rd round. He was definitely teeing off on him a lot more. but he was still eating some of those shots. So that's interesting. If Kevin Holland can make a miss and frustrate him and tag him, right? Tag him from a little bit of a distance, use those knees if they do get in close. Holland could possibly maybe take him out. See Maddalena taking him out. It's going to be a war. So I don't think anyone's going to get finished because it's going to be a war. So with that, I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. I just feel like I feel like he's got a little bit more variety to his striking, and then he could threaten possibly with submissions, attempts / a little bit of a grappling if he needs to. Might surprise everyone, but we'll see. I'm going to go Kevin Holland to defeat Jack Della Maddalena. I'll take him to win by decision. In the main event of the evening, we have Alexa Grasso, 16-3, taking on Valentina Shevchenko, 23-4. For the women's flyweight title. Obviously, Alexa Grasso won the title in the previous fight, which was a pretty good fight up until Valentina Shevchenko going for that. I believe it was a spinning back kick, which was just one of the more labored spinning back kicks you'll see. And at that moment, Alexa Grasso was able to take advantage, get her to the floor, and then get that rear naked choke. And honestly, when you look at it, round number 4 of the fight, when both fighters are a little bit slowing down, not too much, but to a point where I don't think she should have been throwing the spinning back kick. And when you look how when she throws it, it's not like that was going to knock anybody out. I don't know if midway through it, she felt, oh, why did I do that? You know, maybe it was just instinct. I have no idea. But it wasn't the move in that moment. And arguably, I think Alexa Grasso won that first round. And then you had Valentina Shevchenko winning the second and the third round. Up until that point of her throwing that kick, maybe was on her way to winning the fourth round, and then who knows in the other rounds. But it just wasn't the play. So either way, Alexa Grasso came out pretty good. I think she has good boxing, right? She definitely has good boxing. She has dangerous submission skills if you get it down there. Even though Valentina Shevchenko was able to control her a little bit on the floor, Grasso will still try to look for stuff. Not that she's necessarily like throwing up elbows in the off of her back or anything like that, but she's definitely one of these people that I think could reverse the position if it needs to happen, and then look for that submission. And then obviously on the feet, she'll take advantage if she can grab your back or whatever, if you do something like Shevchenko was able to do. Grasso, I think, does her best striking in close because of that boxing, right? She has to get in close to her opponent. Sometimes she'll throw a leg kick here and there, but mostly I think she has to close off that distance to get that boxing. And it's pretty good boxing, you know, fast hands. I think she has good hands, good chin as well. She's patient. She's technical with the boxing too. It's not sloppy. It doesn't come off like, oh, she's just swinging haymakers or anything like that. It's not wild. She landed some pretty good shots on Valentina Shevchenko too, which I think took her by surprise early on. But that comes with that speed, in my opinion. I think that was more of a just landing some of those shots too. And Valentina Shevchenko, who I feel is like more of a counter fighter with the striking. With Grasso's speed, it was making it a little bit hard to read, understand what was going on. But Shevchenko did land her strikes as well. I think Grasso, in some situations where she was engaging in the clinch, I think that was to see if she could try to tire her out a little bit. Because even if you're in the clinch, whether it's offense, defense, I mean, you're both working in the clinch. So the more you can take away from the person, maybe you have faith in your cardio, whatever, you might be able to drain their energy. And then for Shevchenko, if she slows down a little bit, you're making her work. Even if you're the one up against the fence, it's still, you're in that grueling exchange. So I think Grasso at sometimes was just trying to work her in the clinch. Now for Valentina Shevchenko, I think she did pretty well, right? She obviously was able to land those 4 takedowns, something she can threaten with submission skills, right? She can definitely take you down, beat you up. On the feet, she's probably a counter puncher, which is why in some of her fights, especially against Amanda Nunes back in the day, it's very hesitant. It's like she's waiting, right? She's just waiting. She's waiting, waiting, because she's waiting to counter. She can definitely land some pretty hard shots as well. She's not necessarily one of these people who's going to march you down across the ring and start throwing like all these strikes against you, I guess you could say. Valentina Shevchenko, she landed 68 significant strikes to the head, 8 to the body, 11 to the legs, 80 distance strikes. Grasso landed more strikes in the clinch. Shevchenko landed more on the ground. Significant strike percentage for Shevchenko was 60% in comparison to Grasso's 32%. So I think in the striking, Grasso did have moments where she did tag her a little bit, but overall, I think Shevchenko did better on the feet and she did better on the floor. Valentina Shevchenko, let's see, 22 of 40 significant strikes in that fourth round up until when she lost, comparison to Grasso's 13 of 43. In the round before that, round 3, 27 significant strikes landed in comparison to Grasso's 15 of 37. In the second round, close, 12 of 22 significant strikes landed out of in comparison to 7 out of 36 for Alexa Grasso. And then in the first round, that was when it was probably the closest. 26 of 51 significant strikes landed in comparison to 24 of 65 for Grasso. So Grasso did put up some more total significant strikes, but she missed a lot of them. But she kept it close. Definitely kept it close. And that's like I'm saying, I don't think Grasso is necessarily a bad fighter or anything like that, or she's gonna even get beat bad in this one. I think it's gonna be another competitive fight. And when you look at how dominant Valentina Shevchenko was, it's just hard for me to look at that and be like, she's on her way out. I mean, I don't know if you can make that conclusion off of that one. I think she just started facing tough, like her last fight too against Talia Santos. That was that was a much more competitive fight than I think she thought it would be. And like I said, for Grasso, I honestly think if she didn't throw that kick and just kept it doing what she was doing, she probably would have won a decision. So, yeah, I mean, it's not, to me, I'm not seeing this decline that, she's on her way out. And if Shevchenko loses this fight, I would like to see it be dominant from Grasso, right? I would like to see Grasso be able to take her out completely, knock her out on the feet, submit her, but not because she does a spinning back kick, but like legitimately like take her out. Maybe, just in the clinch or just overpower. That's how I like to see these champions win instead of like making a mistake, right? And that's why these rematches, I think, really show you who's the better fighter. Because if Shevchenko goes out here and just wins a dominant decision, maybe then it really shows that like spinning back kick, although Grasso did have moments of success, it still shows that really that spinning back kick was just not it. And that's why she lost the fight. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Again, I think it's going to be another competitive fight. Both fighters are able to get the feel for each other, strengths. Does, you feel stronger here, whatever. I don't anticipate Shevchenko to be throwing a labored spinning back kick in the fourth round. I do think maybe she'll be able to fight a little bit better. And like I said, she was winning. See, that's the thing too with Leon Edwards versus Usman. He wasn't winning, right? That was like far more competitive. And then obviously Leon Edwards was basically able to get the better of everything in the rematch. I don't think that happens here. I think Shevchenko is going to be able to pull away, fight a little bit more aggressive too. Doesn't want to make rounds competitive. Wants to kind of pull away. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to go Valentina Shevchenko. Just can't count out one of the best women flyweights of all time. So I'm going to go Valentina Shevchenko to defeat Alexa Grasso. On Tiger to win by decision. And so that'll do it, guys, for my UFC predictions for UFC Noche, UFC Grasso versus Shevchenko 2 this coming Saturday, September 16, 2023. Leave your comments down below. Leave your predictions down below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.